Depression, denial, anxiety, self-destructivity, and their connection to emotions are the elements of psychology that I will explore in the next videos. This video will be an introduction to these elements, and basically I'm going to explore in a little bit of depth the idea of depression, and try to demystify some beliefs that depression has only certain characteristic of sadness, and basically that's what it is. But I'm going to show you that it's more than that. Thank you. I want to address and stress and make a contrast actually between the atypical depression and the regular depression, so to see how they are different. For example, for the regular depression that we normally people takes as if it were the only kind of depression, we have 7 different points. Loss of interest or pleasure in normal activities, weight or loss or gain, trouble getting to sleep or feeling sleepy during the day, feelings restless and agitated, or else very sluggish and slowed down physically or mentally, being tired and without energy, feeling worthless or guilty, trouble concentrating or making decisions, and there is an 8th one, which is the thoughts or of suicide. That is the kind of depression that with pervasive sadness is the depression that we think it means depression. Depressive, down. But not all depressions are the same. So now I'm going to describe the atypical depression. So what are the characteristics of atypical depression? And atypical depression is different than regular depression in some characteristics like this. Increase of appetite is not decrease of appetite. You eat more. You sleep more than usual. Instead of sleeping less than usual, have insomnia that you might have too, but you have more hours of sleep. Feeling of heaviness in your arms and legs. So oversensitivity to criticism. So these are the main characteristics of this atypical depression that clearly make them a little bit different than the typical depression. And there is one more element, and this element is that makes it even weirder, that you or the person who is suffering for this atypical depression can have moments of happiness. They are short, but they kind of spice the depression and make them think that you're not depressed, because how can you be depressed if you have these moments of happiness? But they're short, and the main feeling is depressive. So this atypical depression can have a relationship with bipolar disorder. In which way? In the way that bipolar disorder changes from depression to being manic. And this maniac behaviors basically is when this person with depression is feeling with so much energy that she's or he is so positive they can do a lot of things. And normally this person with bipolar disorder, this high they have, it's related with some kind of I won't say obsessive behavior, because it's manic. The behavior is different to obsessive behavior, because manic behavior is basically trying to exteriorize as much energy, kind of get rid of as much energy. Like the maniac cannot sleep, cannot have a normal life, eat properly. When they have this episode, is completely engaged, cut by this episode, and then it goes down to depression again. So they have some element in terms of that, and the atypical depression can make this feeling of doing things, and a lot of persons with this kind of depression engage in activities that they are like focused and intense and repetitive, and to make them feel like less anxious, because of course behind any this kind of behavior there is anxiety, and that's one of our connection. And anxiety connects to depression through denying the real feelings that a person will have in a situation. For example, in a situation of abuse, this person can have anger, can have rage, can have sadness, can have different feelings that they are natural to that, the cause of that situation. So the cause and effect has a relationship. When that relationship is broken by a narrative that is denying what happens, that narrative is internalized from the subject of the experience, and through the years, through this complex post-traumatic stress disorder, it's a negation, it's a denial of this feeling. So it's accepting the narrative, the explanation of the abuser for these feelings of abuse. Once that happens, it's a big deal, because you are not in contact with your feelings anymore. But your unconscious is kind enough to tell you, to give you clues of what's going on. But in order to realize that, you have to make an analysis, you have to understand what's going on. You need theory, and you also need insights. So we are back to abuse now, because what makes us deny our feelings is abuse. So once this energy, these feelings that are connected with our true self are denied, when the perception of the situation, of the reality, is changed by the use of authority, the use of power, and that is internalized by the subject, the victim, and that becomes a problem, because your reality has been hijacked by the abuser. And what happens that you have to put it underground. But since this is energy, and since this is your truth, since it has been like storage in some part of your mind, it's going to remain there in your unconscious. And here is where the defense mechanisms start playing a role, because the defense mechanisms were created to diminish or eliminate the pain that you have when you are being abused. So these defense mechanisms create behavior and also in a mental situation where you are not in touch, in contact with what really happened. So it has been pushed to your unconscious. So you create a persona, you create a mask in order to survive in this world that has been denying who you are. So denial becomes one of the first, or they call it the most primitive defense mechanisms, because denial helps you to separate these two worlds: the real world that you have experienced inside of you and is stored somewhere inside of you, and the behavior that is accepted by this authority figure that at the beginning is your mother and father, your household people, but it becomes sooner than later the school, the work world, and the rest of the environment that you're being enclosed in, and that you have to make sense of it. So in order to make sense of it, you have to deny yourself, and that creates a storage of energy that again gonna trigger anxiety. And this anxiety, since you are not solving the problem of basically facing the emotions you had at the moment of the abuse, the injury, the wound, you are denying those emotions. Those emotions are gonna show themselves somehow, somewhere, anywhere. Like, for example, as self-destructive mechanism or self-destructive activity, like alcoholism, drug abuse, a lot of sex, or cutting yourself, or doing something negative for you, like self-hatred, basically. And so you get into this self-hatred mood because you are stuck behind a wall that you cannot cross, but really, really the wall doesn't exist. There is a really good movie there that is called Drop Dead Fred. It has an incredible scene when the daughter dares to say to the mother, "I'm not scared of you anymore." And when she says that, disappears the whole situation, and she encountered herself when she was a little girl. And that's the moment when she heals herself, because she managed to get a fusion with who she was instead of what her mother make them to be. But this make him to be is superficial, unless they kill your soul. But the soul is really hard to be killed. It's really hard to be killed because it's that energy that you have in order to be human or survive being alive. So what I've been suggesting here is that you are able to confront your emotions and you are able to make an effort to move your mind to the moments where you were abused, and you are able to see those moments as an adult. You basically gonna be able to overcome all these years of pain, all these years of depression, of anxiety, of self-destructive behavior, because you are really free. We were programmed not to be free and to fit into a world that is very inhuman. And we are paying the price. It's not only you or me. There are millions of people in the same situation, men and women. And men and women are in different ways affected by this, but we are all affected. And we continue the cycle with our own children. So we abuse our children to make them fit in this world, and the world is getting worse and worse and worse. So thanks for your time. Take care.